Welcome to Tell Me Your Story with Dennis Henson. This is a brand new series we hope that you will enjoy, and it's called Body of Health. Dennis, welcome, and let us start out by telling people about, I guess best way to put it is our disclaimer.
Okay. Well, Richard, thank you so much for having me on this series. I'm really excited about doing this, but I think it's very important that everyone understand that neither of us are medical doctors or have any kind of medical training. We are just people who are very interested in health and being able to get better faster so that if you have some problem, that gives you a place to go to find things that have worked for other people that may help you or they may not, but there'll be something worthwhile checking out.
Body of Health is going to be here every week. The website that we're going to suggest you go to for information, number one website is dennisjhenson.com, which we will have in the audio and video podcast videocast. But there's also a Facebook location, and basically it's facebook.com/groups/body of health. Once again, facebook.com/groups, that's plural, groups/body of health. We hope that you will go there to check out the information that Dennis has provided with us. And with that, we move into our conversation about body of health. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story. This is the Body of Health series with Dennis Henson, author of the Real Impact Daily Inspiration series. And we're here today to improve our health and our well-being. Well, for Dennis and I, because we're on the other side of 50, and I'm being generous on that respect for both of us, we want quality of life, but who doesn't? We want to feel good as we go through our days on this side of that particular milestone, if you will. And Dennis, welcome, and I hope that today your quality of life is excellent. It's great. It's moving right along, as is mine.
Well, thank you, Richard. I appreciate you having me today. And to answer your question, it gets better every day.
And that is the way we're hoping to do it. And that's why we have this series, Body of Health, here on this program. And what we're going to do today is talk about a subject that, I don't think I've ever heard of this other than in either basketball, it's the sport, or maybe in the context of health, where one has one of those dips, the roller coaster ride where you're up and you're down and you're down, and then you go back up again. And we call it rebounding. So we're going to talk about what that is all about. So, Dennis, let's define it. What is rebounding when we talk about the body of health?
Most people are familiar with a trampoline. So if you get up on the trampoline and you start to jump up and down, that's rebounding. But the kind of trampoline I'm talking about is not the big one. It's just a small trampoline that would fit in the corner of one of the rooms in your home. And it has a place to hold on, and you just get on the trampoline and start to rebound, start to kind of jump up and down. And it doesn't have to be vigorous. It's just moving your body up and down so that it stops and comes back up, stops and comes back up.
Well, that's one of the aspects. And now this is something that just came to mind. The example of a rubber band. When you stretch it and then you release it, and you stretch it and you release it. Now, the difference between a rubber band and the human body is that when you stretch a rubber band and then you release it and you do this over and over again, eventually the rubber band's going to break because you're stressing it. It's just the material that's being used. But the human body has a resilience to it. That's kind of what we're talking about in that respect, to go through those trials. Somebody described the immune system in the human body this way. It's like a military machine. And if you don't train it, if you don't exercise it, if you don't use it, so to speak,
Yes.
then it gets weaker and weaker. Or if you continually take antibiotics, for example, the antibiotics are doing the work. The immune system has nothing to do, and again, it gets weaker and weaker. Am I kind of on the right track here?
Sure. Yes. Of the 11 systems of the human body, probably the most important one is the circulatory system where the blood is pumped through. But with that system, you have a pump. But what many people don't know is that the lymphatic system, the the lymph fluids are more prevalent in your body than blood. You have more lymph fluid in your body than blood, but there's no pump. So if you are sedentary, if you don't move around, if you
Mhm.
just, sit and watch TV all day and don't do anything, then your immune system, which is that same system,
Mhm.
the lymphatic system is the immune system. And what it does is it cleans all of the bad stuff out of your body. But if you don't move, then the fluid doesn't move. So the number one way to get your lymph fluid moving is by rebounding. In fact, NASA did a study and said that rebounding is 68% more efficient than jogging. Now you would think that jogging, that jogging of all things would be the number one thing that would get your lymph, and it's good for you. It really is. It creates a lot of stress on your lower joints, but with the rebounding, that removes the stress on your lower joints,
Hmm.
and it's so much easier and less time consuming. So let's just say I used to walk many steps. A lot of people think, well, if I walk 10,000 steps a day, that's going to really be good for my health. And that's true. It is. The problem with that is it takes about 2 hours out of every day of your life. And that adds up. And it becomes, I mean, the habit's pretty easy to form, but to continue the habit becomes harder and harder because if you take plane trips or if you have meetings or, there's different things that come up in your life that make it difficult to find 2 hours in the day. Where if you replace that with 10 to 15 minutes of rebounding, it only takes 10 or 15 minutes and it's actually better for you than the walking. The way I found this out is for years I walked every day for years. And then I developed plantar fasciitis and one of my feet collapsed in the middle. Okay. It
Mhm.
was like I didn't do anything. I didn't sprain my ankle, but the next thing I knew, I was in the emergency room in tremendous pain because the sole of my foot just collapsed. So then I couldn't walk. Well, what was I going to do? I had broken my habit of walking thousands of steps every day. I still needed the exercise. I still needed to be able to get the benefits. And so I started doing a little research, and the more I studied, the more I found out, wow, this rebounding it's amazing. And you don't have to do it on both feet. I mean, you really don't
Mhm.
even have to jump high enough to get off of the trampoline. It's just a matter of moving up and down.
Mhm.
So I guess throughout our meeting here today, I'm going to be telling you some of the other benefits, but I think that's the main one. Instead of walking for 2 hours, 10,000 steps, you can replace that with 10 or 15 minutes of something that's really a lot easier. Of course, you don't get to be in nature. I don't mean stop walking. You
Hmm.
still want to walk as much as you can.
Yeah.
But if you can just, on the days that it's difficult to walk, replace that with 15 minutes of rebounding on a small trampoline, that's a really good thing to know, I think, and it's very
Hmm.
healthy.
And I know that they have these small trampolines that you can put in even in your office or your bedroom or what
Right.
have you, that you just go a step up on it. It's no more than, I don't know, 4, 6 inches, 8 inches off of the floor. And you just get up there and you're not jumping up and down. Is that right? You're
Yeah, they're just moving up and down.
just moving up and down. Your feet don't really even leave the surface of the trampoline.
Exactly.
Now, if someone doesn't have one, they can still do this in terms of just standing on the floor and just, and again, you're not leaving, your feet aren't leaving the floor, but you just have that movement up and down with your body. Maybe flexing your knees and your hips, that kind of thing.
You could, that's kind of the same as jogging.
Okay.
And then in order to do that, you're going to have to do the full amount of time. There's something about the trampoline that causes every lymph, um, it's like little capillaries that open and close,
Mm-hmm.
causes every one of the valves, the lymph valves in your body to open and close, and it moves the fluid through your body and helps you get rid of all of the bad things.
Well, I know that for myself, when living in Santa Barbara, I would really do everything I could to take the time to, for example, get out of the office, get on my feet, and especially when we worked in downtown Santa Barbara, I would walk down State Street to the beach and and then back again. That was about a 20-minute walk and then back again. And then moved the studios to another small community to the west, a lot further away from the beach. It wasn't a walk. I had to get in the car and drive to the beach and walk and so forth. But then with schedules and everything, I began to spend more time in the studio sitting. And I thought, no, this isn't right. And I would start to feel uncomfortable after a little while. I mean, even now when I work from home 100% of the time, I do have 2 or 3 or 4 hours consecutive where I'm sitting. And so what I do is when one of the programs is on the air and it's between commercial breaks, and since we live in I'm going to call it a 3-story because I love that because we have a loft above the living room. I go up the stairs. I
Mhm.
walk up and down, I go up and maybe I'll make my coffee, or get some water or some juice or whatever, or a quick snack or something, and then go back down the stairs. I mean, and I will tell you that I've counted them. Now, most of the time you don't count. You just go up and down your stairs.
Mhm.
Well, I got 12. I've got 12 steps up and 12 steps down. That's a minimum, of course, 24 steps. I never do two at a time. I used to. As a kid, I would do 2 steps at a time. I not today. I don't want to wind up I don't want to wind up with adverse conditions. But the lymphatic system that you are talking about is also a subject that we're going to want to get into as well, because this is what you're talking about in terms of getting the fluid in the body moving. It's the equivalent of the oil or even the refrigerant, or not so much the refrigerant, the antifreeze, I should say, circulating in the summertime, and the oil, of course, all the time. It's got to be circulating, or it's not going to do any good. It's got to keep everything lubricated. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we continue. We're talking with Dennis Henson here on A Body of Health. Body of Health is the program, Body of Health. You have a group on Facebook as well, Dennis, that we will be linked to. And I don't know that we necessarily have a recipe per se, because our programs every once in a while are going to feature a little something that people can conjure up in their kitchens to put things together. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we continue here on Body of Health on the Tell Me Your Story. I'm Reverend Dr. D. He is Dennis Henson, and we'll be right back. Welcome to Body of Health. Dennis Henson is my co-host here on the program. I'm Reverend Dr. D, and just as a reminder, even though we've made the comment at the front end of the program, we are not doctors. We are not prescribing anything. We're just offering suggestions, and we hope that you will consider them. We're not telling you to go do them. We're saying please consider these possibilities. I would venture, Dennis, talking about this trampoline, this little floor thing, because I've seen some pretty big trampolines in my day that have big fencing around them so that whoever's bouncing doesn't fall off and fall out of it, because that could hurt you. But they were talking about these small little things that probably aren't any more than, I don't know, a foot and a half to 2 feet across and maybe 6 or 8 inches off of the floor, the legs and so forth, that you can have in your, again, as I said earlier, your bedroom, your living room, your office, and so forth. And you want to watch TV? Sure, you can sit there and bounce. And again, you're not leaving the floor. And it's not a major investment. That was one of the other things I wanted to talk about. You don't have to spend a ton of money on one of these I guess I call them a personal trampoline.
That's true. They're pretty easy to get. I told my wife that I needed one, and it came, it was delivered in the next couple of days, and it wasn't very expensive. And we use it, or I use it pretty much every day. Um, Rebounding is the only exercise that uses gravity to simultaneously open every lymph valve in the body. I thought, wow, isn't that? It's the only exercise of all the ones it's swimming, don't, running, walking, playing, tennis or whatever. So, wow, that's pretty important information to know. And your your lymph system is a very important system in your body, and most people don't realize that there's more lymph fluid in your body than there is blood. I think if you did a survey, most people would say, probably 90 something percent of the people would say that blood is the number one fluid in the body, but that's not necessarily the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty important system. And if you don't, if the lymph fluid does not move, you're going to get really sick really fast. You're probably not going to be around for very long. That's why you hear when you're talking of health that one of the worst things you can do is sit in a recliner all day,
Mm-hmm.
because your health is just going to deteriorate. And so this, when it's raining or when it's nice, certainly go out and walk. You may want to do a little rebounding in addition, just to be sure. You want to get out of nature. I'm a believer in grounding. I think walking barefoot on the grass is really good for you. But Richard, let's talk about what got us here.
Yes.
Why am I even talking about this? Like you said, I'm not a doctor. You're not a medical doctor.
Nope.
So what got me here is, when you get to be 70 years old, your body falls off a cliff. It's like a time machine. When you hit 70, you just go downhill. Well, I didn't think that was true. I was drinking 13 Dr. Peppers a day, eating, chicken fried steak. I was doing whatever I wanted to do. And somebody said they were concerned about my health. And I said, don't worry about me. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to live for 50 more years. And the next week I had a stroke.
Mm.
And it was severe. I mean, it was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my eyesight. I lost use of most of the left side of my body. And for 6 months, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even get up and out of a chair and walk across the room. So while I was sitting there going through all that, I decided, well, something's going to change. I'm going to become normal again. I'm going to get well. I'm going to be able to think clearly. I'm going to be able to do the things with my wife that we love to travel. I want to be able to do all that stuff. So little by little, I began to walk. My wife would walk me to the end of the cul-de-sac, holding me up. And then I'd walk a block, and then I'd walk a mile. And before long, I was walking every day. While I was walking, I was listening. I would listen to different things about different parts of health because I had a lot of things I needed to fix. My body was not totally healed and it wasn't working the way it should be. So I'd listen to Barbara O'Neill a lot. I mean, she's wonderful. But if I had some problem with my health, I would do a search on YouTube and find the people that were talking about it. One of the things that I found was I continued to have strokes. When I was in the hospital, I told the doctor, well, at least it's over with. And he got a strange look on his face and shook his head and said, no, this is probably not the end. It's probably the beginning. And, your chance of having another stroke in the next 3 months are almost 100%. I thought, oh my goodness. So sure enough, in 3 months, I had another one and I ended up with 7. And I thought, well, I've got to stop this. So my wife found a holistic doctor that was traveling. She only came to Dallas Fort Worth 3 times a year or 4, maybe every quarter. And she just happened to be in town the next day. We got an appointment with her and she introduced me to L-arginine and citrulline. When I started taking those, I stopped having strokes and I started healing. I started getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was in 2018, and this is what 2026. So for these last 8 years, I've learned everything I possibly could learn about healing, longevity, living longer, feeling better, and I've shared it with a number of my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you contacted me about doing a program for this year, we did the entire last year about my books, and I have other books coming up, but I thought, well, this would be great to share because I've learned so much, and there's so many things that we can touch on
Mm-hmm.
every week. And this week is the rebounding. The next week we may talk about grounding. We may talk about any number of things. I think over the next 52 weeks, probably 50 left now or 51. We're going to cover some really interesting topics because I've learned so much. I know we'll do one program on chocolate.
Yep.
Chocolate is absolutely amazing what it can do for your body and for how you feel and for how long you live.
Well, I've got someone who's going to be listening to that program. I'll tell you right now. um, there are so many different things that we can do, and this is not a program that is exclusively for those of us who are over 50. No, 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 no. This is a program that is designed for everyone because we are all getting older. I mean, that's just the nature of this universe and this planet and this reality in which we live is that we come into this world, we're born, we live a life, and then we move on. But the question is, what kind of a life are you living in terms of your health and well-being? And again, I mentioned that phrase, quality of life. We're going to talk more about that as well as we continue here on Body of Health here on Tell Me Your Story with Dennis Henson and yours truly, Reverend Dr. D. Just a reminder that we are just offering these as suggestions. We hope that you'll consider them. We are not doctors, and we want you to certainly check with your healthcare professional before taking on anything that you feel is something that you wanna take on and you want to improve that quality of health. And we'll continue with that as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. This is Body of Health. Dennis Henson, Reverend Dr. D here, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about we make the disclaimer and everything, but at the same time there is an internal guide that I talk about on the other programs that I host with guests, and that is our intuition or gut feeling or what have you. That just sort of that inner knowing that yeah, this is something I think I want to try this, or no, that's not really for me, or maybe not right now. Talk to us a little bit about your experiences over the years, and maybe even just recently, since this incident that you had in 2018, where you started going inward and not only asking questions, but maybe getting guidance from that gut feeling or that intuitive voice, if you will. Can you share a little bit of that?
I can, well, I've always relied on an inner voice from, I came up, my mother was very religious and she always taught me, to follow the principles in the Bible. And if you do that, you're going to lean not on your own understanding, like it says
Mm-hmm.
in the Bible, but
Yeah.
uh, that's that's the way that it happens for me. I'm a man of faith. I just believe that things are going to work out um, if you ask with gratefulness in your heart and you believe, then you're going to receive. You've already received it. You're going to receive what it is that you're asking for, if it's within the will of God.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that for myself, there are times when I mean, I've tried a number of different things for the various issues the challenges in my health that I have, and I've tried a number of different things, still trying them, and at the same time, I also have to maintain that not only that attitude of gratefulness, Dennis, but also I'll say I have to maintain a level of hope that I'm going to be guided to the right answers that are going to resolve this. We hear constantly, don't we, Dennis, about certain conditions in the body that no, they're not curable, but we can treat them. Now, whether that's with medication or whether it's alternative forms, similar to what we talked about in our very first program about the Fountain of Youth drink, um, the body regenerates itself cellularly,
Mhm.
they say, every 7 years. Well, there must be a way, and I think this is kind of what we're talking about here. There must be a way for us to facilitate the regeneration of the body to optimal health. Um, a woman that I used to produce some health programs for, Linda Mackey, she used to use the term homeostasis. And that had to do, of course, with, the balancing of the systems. And here today we're talking about the lymphatic system. All right. And rebounding. That's the subject of today. But you'd think over the 7 years, as those cells are fluffing off and new ones are being created and your bodies are being regenerated, that you could have some impact on
Oh,
the
yes.
quality of those cells, right?
Well, one of the studies that I reviewed for the program today confirmed that lymphatic stimulation increases the body's ability to detect and remove cancerous cells. Now, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Just by rebounding 10, 15 minutes every day, you may be able to totally avoid, or if you already have cancer, move into a more healthy direction just by doing that simple task. Of course, there's a lot of other things you can do, but I think let your immune system work for you is a pretty good one to start with.
Yeah. And it's one of the reasons why, and again, being at the age that I am with the issues and challenges that I'm dealing with, there would be those who would say, Richard, you really, really should get a flu shot. You really need to, protect yourself. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, don't get me wrong, but I lean into supporting and doing everything I can to eat the right kinds of foods and have the right kinds of drinks and so forth to support my immune system, that team, if you will, that force that is designed to take care of these things. And the flu has been around for a long time, as long as I've been alive and before. All right, I can tell you honestly, Dennis, I haven't had the flu shot in probably 40, maybe 50 years. Now, have I gotten sick over the years? Yeah, but not, I'm going to say I haven't had a real sickness or been laid up in bed with something internal like that for probably, I don't know, 20, 30 or more years. And the last time that I was literally laid up in bed where I could not move, I just felt horrible, was when I had worked, I think it was either 7 or 8 or 9 days straight. And my body basically was saying to me, that's enough. You have got to rest.
Mhm.
And we forget that our bodies need rest. I mean, this rebounding that we're talking about is great, but you also there comes a point, even in the rebounding, isn't there, where okay, I've done the what is it, 10 or 15 minutes rebounding. Okay, now I'm going to sit and I'm going to rest, and then I'm going to go drink some fluids, drink some water, to keep the fluids moving through the system, right?
Exactly. This rebounding is just one of maybe 100 different things that you can do, or even more than that, to keep your body healthy. That's why I created the Body of Health Facebook group. Anything that I see or hear or that impresses me, I think, well, I want to remember that. I put it on the Body of Health Facebook group so that I can remember it. But what's the great thing about that is other people can become members and they don't have to search. It's there already. All the tips that I've found over the years are already there. You can just, they're mostly videos, listen to them one after the next, until you find the thing that's bothering you at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever your problem is, there's probably a video on there of someone who's been through it and they have a way out. So I would suggest that you go. Now, if you can't find it, I mean, there's lots of groups on Facebook, and it's hard to find one. Even if you went there and typed in Body of Health, you might find it and you might not. There's probably 20 groups named Body of Health. But if you want to find it, go to dennisjhenson.com and click on the tab across the top that says Health. It has the link to take you to the Facebook page, and it has a review of every one of our programs. Like last week, it was the Fountain of Youth drink. The recipe is there.
Mm-hmm.
We also talked about the 5 white foods to avoid. That's there also. And this rebounding, the notes from this meeting today will also be there. So that might be something that you want to visit and revisit. But you can just go there and click on the link and take you directly to the Facebook group. And if you would, while you're there, join. And then when I add other videos, you'll be notified.
Yeah. And that's a real key right there. When we continue here with Body of Health, we're going to have you give us some of that list of things, the benefits of rebounding that you mentioned earlier. This is Body of Health. I am Reverend Dr. D. He is Dennis Henson, and this is Tell Me Your Story. Here we are on Tell Me Your Story talking about Body of Health. And the Body of Health we're talking about is a year-long series that is going to, I hope, help you and myself, because I plan to use some of these myself, to optimize our health. and to have that, as my friend Linda Mackey used to say, have that homeostasis, to where we balance our body's systems so that they work optimally, so we have that quality of health. Dennis, let's go into some of the benefits of rebounding.
Well, first of all, it skyrockets the mitochondrial energy and forces oxygen deep into all of your cells. Now, what else does that? In every cell in your body. So that's one thing. 15 minutes of bouncing significantly boost the lymph flow and your immune function. Well, anything that you can do that's going to boost your immune function, I think that's pretty a pretty powerful thing to do,
Hmm.
because of all things, you want your immune system to be working perfectly.
Yeah.
And it detects and removes cancerous cells. Well, one of the top medical problems in the world today is cancer. If you have your immune system so that it's detecting and removing the cells immediately, I think that's a pretty good thing too. So that's just touching on it. I mean, there's so many benefits. If you look up the benefits of walking 10,000 steps and then realize that this is 68% more effective than that, it's it's just a no-brainer. It's something that you really need to consider doing.
I couldn't agree with you more. Um, and that's one of the other aspects of this that fascinates me regarding health is a lot of the statements that are made by so-called official health or medical outlets, that certain things cannot be cured; they can only be treated. Or that I did hear this, and this is it's almost a sad fact of sorts, that you we all have this potentiality for different conditions, whether it's cancer, high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, and the list goes on. Doesn't mean you're going to get it. It just says that within our cells, in our DNA, we have the potentiality. And some of us will go through our entire lives and never get any, have no problems whatsoever. Uh, and they say, I don't know if it's in the DNA. I'm not sure where it resides, that kind of information. I had a guest on my program, Dennis, some years ago. Stephen Lewis wrote a book called Sanctuary. It was a fictional story, but it made the point about health. And he had a process where he'd take your photograph, and he would process it in a computer, analyzing the vibrations, the frequencies in the body that may be out of balance. And then he would generate those frequencies, or the counter frequencies, the opposites, to help get those frequencies back into balance. Now, I know this sounds kind of strange, but the best example I can give to describe that is I'm an audio engineer. I produce, and when I have a true stereo left right separation signal, audio file, like a song, for example, and I take one of those tracks, either the left or the right, doesn't matter, and I flip it vertically. In other words, I take it out of phase,
Mhm.
and then I mix the two channels together. It creates the equivalent of a karaoke song, a piece of music, okay? And that the vocals of this song that I have just processed, the main vocals go all the way into the back. They don't disappear, they just go all the way into the back. And whereas if I have a left right stereo signal, but the two are identical. All right. They're a monaural left, a monaural right. And I mix and I do out of phase, and then I mix them together. You know what happens? The wave disappears. It's gone because they 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 cancel each other out, if you will. So that is sort of the process that we're talking about from the standpoint of understanding our bodies, our health, and finding ways. Again, this is to getting us back into balance. So if and there's another gentleman, I'm throwing a lot of stuff out here, Royal Raymond Rife and the Rife frequency generator, along the same lines as Stephen Lewis and his process, EMC squared, where Royal Raymond Rife back in the 20s and 30s, 1920s and 1930s, I should say, basically began to study and uh, came up with the electron microscope so that he could view live tissue and that he would actually hit cancer cells or whatever the cells that he was looking at with the vibration, the frequency that was opposite to what he was getting from the cell. And the cell would die
Mhm.
because it didn't belong in the human body. So, I mean, these are different concepts that I have been exposed to over the many years that I've been doing these interviews. And to me, it's fascinating the different modalities. And in this case, with body of health, rebounding, I got to tell you, it's a heck of a lot simpler and easier, certainly than the Rife frequency generator or EMC squared or any of the other modalities because it requires somebody else outside yourself. This you can do yourself. And that's the big thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing to add to your arsenal of health. You know, one day on one of these programs, we may just highlight, just go through all of the different things that you can add into your life. I think that would be an interesting program. I probably have a hundred of them. One example would be taking a cold shower in the morning. You know, most people don't think about it, but that's something really simple that you can do that shocks your body and creates movement in your heart and resilience. So uh, I think maybe next week or pretty soon
Hmm.
we should just hit quite a few of the topics and just talk about them for a second or two. But then people can do the research on their own. I already did the research, but they can do the research on their own for the thing that that's going to help them with the problems they're having. You
Hmm.
know, maybe they're having digestive problems, or maybe they're having headaches, or maybe, who knows, whatever it is,
Right.
there's answers out there. And, YouTube's just amazing. And Barbara O'Neill is, I tell you what, she can take the credit for pretty much curing me because anything that I had wrong with me, I would just go to YouTube, type in Barbara O'Neill and that whatever that was, and she has a 2 hour program on how to solve it. And it's really good. I mean, it's so good that the medical community is not really happy with her because
Well,
most of it's free.
exactly, exactly. Well, when we, as we continue here on Body of Health, Tell Me Your Story series, I want to come back and talk a little bit about uh, this rebounding, kind of recap things and wrap things up here with Dennis Henson, my co-host here on Tell Me Your Story Body of Health series. I'm Reverend Dr. D. Stay with us. We are just about to wrap up this program. Dennis, let's do a recap in terms of this rebounding. How long, once you've gotten your little personal trampoline, how long do you recommend that we do this rebounding each day?
Well, I think at least 10 minutes, that's not really very long. When you consider I'd been walking for a couple of hours every day for years and years and years to be able to get the same benefit and more in 10 minutes to
Mm.
me was like a miracle. And at the time, I couldn't even walk. I had a problem with my foot, so I could rebound on one foot.
Hmm.
And my secretary or my personal assistant the other day said, we were talking about this, and she said, well, I'm not sure I can do that because she'd had an auto accident and one of her legs is hurt. And I said, well, you can because I did it. You can do it on one leg.
Hmm.
It's not about how hard you bounce.
Right.
It's about moving up and down and stopping so that your lymph fluid moves through your system and it boosts your immune system tremendously. It gives it a tremendous boost.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing to know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And once again, you go to Facebook and you go to Body of Health Group. Is that correct?
Well, you can, yes. The easier way to get there would be go to dennisjhenson.com
I like
and
it.
click on the health tab, and it has the link to the Facebook page.
All right.
Because if you go to Facebook, you're going to probably search for Body of Health, and you're going to find 50 groups, and you're probably not going to find mine, you know.
Ah,
So
well, we recommend folks that you do go to dennisjhenson.com and find out more about this and click the links, get the information, even get the recipe for our first recipe for the Fountain of Youth drink. And
right, and you're
we've
going
got,
to put a link in your on your notes for this program.
hmm absolutely.
So they
That's
can just click on that. It'll take them to the Facebook page.
absolutely. Well, folks, thank you so much for joining us. Dennis, thank you for joining us again here on the program. And we look forward to another an informative program next time here on Body of Health.
Thank you, Richard. I hope it helps.
That's the key right there. And I believe that it will. And folks, thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, Body of Health. Until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to all. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.